Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Season 12, race number 7 of the All Assist Off League. It is the penultimate race of the season here in Australia, with plenty of permutations to be going out. We could see a new drivers and new constructors champion by the end of this race. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome to the absolute chaos that has been brought to us this week that Australia has got to offer. If you're just joining us on the back of what happened in the previous coverage, you'll be pleased to know we are ready to get back underway. There were 11 laps left to go, which means we'll be continuing with 15 laps in this race. We'll be continuing with the grid that is set in the same way in which the last race finished, simply because when the red flag came up, the race glitched, the game glitched, many people were kicked out and we were unable to finish what we were doing. So we are back, and hopefully in just a few moments' time we'll be ready to bring you the final 15 laps of the Australian Grand Prix. If you are not yet aware of how these permutations are going to be working, it is simply a case of Herman and Danger David are both racing in a Mercedes together. Both have a chance of winning the Drivers' Championship. In 2 weeks' time, the race and the season will conclude in Japan. If Herman is to outscore Danger David by 23 points tonight, he will be the champion. Points are delivered differently in this league, of course, with it being All Assist Soft League. It has its own uniqueness, including the points that are on offer. That does include that qualifying, sometimes a sprint race, fastest lap, and of course the race results all include you getting points. This is not limited solely to the top 10. This is a case of you can get points regardless of where you finish, providing you finish the race. Now, Herman, as I've just mentioned, if he can outscore Danger David by 23 points tonight, he will be named the champion. If Herman is to win and Danger David is second, regardless who's got pole position, which on this occasion was Herman, and regardless who got the fastest lap, who by the time that the last race was stopped due to the red flag was VSM Sandman, the title will be decided in 2 weeks' time in Japan. I'll tell you the constructors in just a moment, as it's lights out, and here we go. Out in first place is VSM Sandman. It's Herman. VSM Sandman just behind him, and he's had to stay behind him going into the first corner, but Toxic makes his way up into third place. It was very close between the two of them in the collision perspective. 0.2 of a second separates Sandman from Herman, and it's very close for the McLaren to be piling that pressure on the Mercedes as Danger David falls down into fifth place, and as it stands, we'll be looking at a new drivers' champion. Looking up and down the grid where we've got any sort of battling going on. I know it's still early stages in the opening part of this race. 15 laps. Here we go. No pit stops are necessarily required. I believe everybody will have gone out on those soft tyres for the sake of this race as well. Just checking. No, we do have a couple out on softs. They may need to go into the pits, but medium tyres seems to be the one that most people have chosen here. We're on board with Tarkangino in the Alpine, making his way around the track. We'll jump up to the second place VSM Sandman, who in a couple of laps time will have the RS assistance, the extra 10 miles per hour that gets to offer. See if he can get himself past Herman in the Mercedes to take first place away from him. It was a nice battle in the first half of this race, as we do have a yellow flag going somewhere in sector 3. It is possibly due to how close a lot of these cars are getting to each other and a lot having to slow down. DB890 picking up a penalty down in 18th place at the moment, but we finish lap number 1 with Herman out in first place at the moment. Followed closely behind is VSM Sandman. Let's move further down to Tarkangino and Quincy, who were for a moment neck and neck, closing that gap on Truckster in a battle for 6th place. Truckster already 2 seconds behind Danger David in 5th place. Up goes the inside there, Quincy. It's going to be good defending from Tarkangino, and he's had to do it, and he's defended very well to keep that position as his in 7th place. Quincy now forced to heel back down into 8th. RS012 and his teammate for Red Bull down in 9th place. Red Bull, the current Constructors champion, defending, but that wasn't RS012 and Quincy that won that championship. It was actually last season between Danger David and D. Perez. Danger David on course for another Constructors Championship, this time in the Mercedes. D. Perez has been racing with him a bit throughout this season. Herman is currently the one that's racing alongside him today, and did 2 weeks ago as well. If Mercedes outscore the AlphaTauris by 50 points, it looks like the Mercedes will be the Constructors Champions, which does mean that for D. Perez and for Danger David, that's back-to-back for them. And of course, that's what Danger David said at the very beginning, was the intention of every season where him and D. Perez do race alongside each other. Let's jump on board with VSM Sam. I'm reaching the end of the pit straight, just not enough of a lengthy pit straight for him to be able to get the overtake on Herman at the moment. DRS will be available to him in the next lap or two, which means he might have that extra advantage to get past Herman if he can stay within 1 second of the car ahead. He is still just behind him though and closing that gap ever so slightly. It was 2/10. Herman is starting to find a bit of a gap himself as well. Let's jump on board with Quincy, who's now the closest to an overtake. We've got in 8th place, 2/10 just behind. Tarkangino goes up on the outside, holds the outside line for the next corner, takes the position, and following him through his RS0121, and Tarkangino falls from 7th down to 9th place. Great teamwork from the two Red Bulls. Quincy made his way past Tarkangino. RS0121 followed him through, said thank you very much as T-Brown retires from the race. Red Bull now 7th and 8th place respectively. Let's jump on board with Toxic. He's just behind Danger David in the Mercedes. That battle isn't over in the battle for 4th place. 6/10 currently separates the two of them as Formula 1 Farah and Frankie 1811 have had a bit of a tussle down at the bottom. Safety car is out. I think Formula 1 Farah just got ahead of Frankie 1811 before that came out. So we'll say at the moment it is in favour of the Williams, who's in 11th place, but the safety car is out and we'll get a good couple of laps behind Bert Mylander, making his way around Australia. So yes, as I mentioned, with the permutations as it stands at the moment, being 1st and 4th as compared to Alfa Romeo with a DNF for T-Bran and 5th place for Toxic, by close of play at the end of this race in 11 laps time, Mercedes will be the Constructors' Champion, whatever happens in 2 weeks' time in Japan. As it stands at the moment, Herman taking pole position. Herman in 1st place at the moment. Herman will be the champion. He's 23 points at the very least ahead of Danger David at the moment. So it's very close between them. Still a lot of battling to go. But as it stands, Herman will be the Drivers' Championship. And it's the first time I've seen in an online racing league the Drivers' Champion being somebody that doesn't have a team. Somebody else that doesn't have a team is out of Pleasant Snake in the McLaren, who's had a fantastic season so far, been fighting towards the front of the grid. At one point, the top two in the Drivers' Championship was Herman and Pleasant Snake, two drivers that both of them have been without a seat all season. They've both been there just in case there's certain drivers that cannot make it. Pleasant Snake's in 16th, Herman is in 1st, and that'll be the case when the safety car goes in and the race will restart. I am aware that next season Pleasant Snake will be racing for the McLaren permanently, so this is just an insight for him and a chance to see exactly what he can do. But at the moment he's in 16th place, getting used to the McLaren car. We are continuing round, and it looks like the safety car is going to be remaining out there for at least another lap. The Drivers' Championship, due to his absence throughout the course of the season, despite the fact that he's not been in every race so far this season, VSM Sandman currently finds himself in 6th place. He's missed 3 races so far this season, and he's 251 points behind Herman, the current race leader. 114 points separates Herman from Danger David for the time being, though. There is still, of course, plenty of racing to go, and as we know, in Formula 1 races in general, anything can happen, and it isn't over until the checkered flag has been raised. That's not different here. This is the all assists off league, which means exactly what it says. All assists are off, and there have been drivers that have taken penalties simply for speeding in the pit lane. None of it is done manually. It is all down to the individual, which of course on this occasion it's working out in a couple of drivers' favours with not needing to use any pit stop strategies. 10 laps left to go. I'm surprised that under this safety car nobody's taken the punt and gone onto soft tyres, considering how many's out there on medium, how many's out there on hard at the moment. Apart from Toxic, who's in 5th place on those soft tyres, everybody else needing to close that gap. Might have been worth a punt for at least a couple of these drivers. But as it stands at the moment, the safety car will be in within the next lap or two, and then we should be able to see DRS being enabled for a couple of these drivers. As T-Bran is the only casualty in this race so far. He's had a DNF. And we are back underway here on race number 7 of 8, the penultimate race of the season, lap number 6. And it's a very quick start for Herman as VSM Sandman takes a very slow response to the safety car going in and falls down to 4th place, which moves Danger David up into 3rd. Ebor in 2nd place in the Aston Martin at the moment. Sandman under pressure from Toxic in the Alfa Romeo as it looks like a little bit wide there. He took a bit of a spin and went wide and lost position. Truxton took a bit of a spin. It looked like the back end of his car actually hit the wall as well. But as it stands at the moment, they keep 5th and 6th place respectively as Sandman gains a little bit of a lead from those two drivers and will now try and catch Danger David. Plenty of times we've seen VSM Sandman and Danger David have battles at the front of the All Assist Soft League. We might get to see it one more time here as VSM Sandman tries to close that gap on the Mercedes of Danger David before then making his way to the Aston Martin of Evil with 9 laps left to go. It did say at the bottom, you may have seen it, that VSM Sandman has joined the session. It looks like he'd actually left the session, whether that's through his own fault or not. He'd actually left the session during the time where the safety car was there. He then had to leave and rejoined whilst the safety car was going in. And that's where he lost a lot of that time. But it looks like he's still stuttering a little bit. It might be a lag on either my side or his side, but his car was certainly struggling then as Trucks has been forced to go into the pits on the back of what we saw earlier with their incident on the side hitting the wall. Leaves him going into the pit. So we'll stay on board with Danger David now then, who's very close to Evil and could make this a Mercedes 1-2. If he can get past Evil and take 2nd place from the Aston Martin, the Drivers' Championship, regardless of whatever else happens, will go down to the final race in 2 weeks' time in Japan. And we could see a very interesting fight there at all. We know the twists and turns that are actually there in Japan could cause for a very interesting race. It doesn't look like it's getting a bit dark. It might look like there's rain on the way, which could make for an interesting strategy from a lot of these drivers as Formula 1 Farah has left the race, left the session. He's got a DNF. That's him done. We've just seen at the bottom, Frankie 1811 has rejoined the session. He's currently down in 10th place at the moment. We stay on board with Danger David. With that 3-second time penalty, we'll have a lot of work to do now to get past Evil. He is just behind him by 5/10, but he's still got to get past him and gain that 3 seconds, which at the moment would have to get him ahead of Herman to do so. But Herman's not going to do that, regardless of how much it might benefit the team. These two are neck and neck in the Drivers' Championship. A win for Herman is pivotal towards him taking that championship away from Danger David, the current defending world champion here on the All Assists Off League. Looking up and down, we'll move on to board with Frank 1811, who has just rejoined this session. He's making a move on Veriduco, not quite in DRS section at the moment, simply because we're only on lap 8, just returning back from a safety car. If you are just joining us, Frankie had a look up the inside of Veriduco there, but chose not to capitalise on that opportunity. He is stuck between a Haas sandwich, though. He's got Surbo just behind him. He's now going to go up onto the outside of Veriduco and take that position, but Veriduco goes into the next corner on the inside, brakes very late, and it allows Frankie 1811 to go back into 10th place, as we see on the left-hand side. A bit of a tailspin from Surbo, sees him falling down the track, but he's got himself back on to the track now. He's just lost a couple of positions. He's down in 16th place at the moment. Let's jump back up to on board with Danger Danger David in the Mercedes. He's closing that gap on Evo. He's got DRS. DRS is open at the moment, gives him that extra 10 miles per hour going through sector 3 at the moment. He's only a couple of corners. If not, you can actually see in front of him how close he is to Herman. There's now 2 seconds. They've broken the 2-second gap, both him and Evo. We've seen over the last couple of weeks how important Evo's chances have been, how improved his chances have been, in fact. As we go on to the pit straight, I thought I saw a bit of rain. We could still see that with 7 laps left to go. DRS is open nonetheless, though, but I don't think the track's going to be quite long enough that on the pit straight, Danger David can get by Evo, so he's going to have to stay behind him at least for the next couple of laps as Sandman, Toxic, and Tarkangino all go into the pits potentially due to this rain that is now starting to fall. We've got 6 laps left to go, and a lot of these drivers are going to have to contemplate when the right time is to switch in for these intermediates or these wet tyres. I think at the moment it might be the intermediates, but it depends on how long some of these drivers choose to stay out there for. Leader of those that have pitted, let's just have a look at the pit stop information. We have got the leader of the pit stops at the moment is the McLaren of Pleasant Snake up in 5th place. I'm just going to check his tyres. Yeah, he's on hard tyres. I didn't think he'd pitted for intermediates earlier, so we'll say that it's actually the McLaren of VSM Salmon, because I think Pleasant Snake might need to pit again. I don't think those hard tyres are going to see him through to the end of this race. Staying on board with Danger David at the moment, DRS is still enabled, which means he's able to use this to his advantage with a chance to get past Evo into 2nd place. Has a look up the inside, but is forced to go a bit behind him just over these next couple of corners at the very least. There is another DRS zone onto the pit straight. We haven't had the information from race control yet saying that this has been stopped, which means DRS is still available to him. If he chooses to stay out there, he is going to pit. He's going to follow Evo into the pits. Herman has not pitted yet, so let's jump on board with VSM Sandman, see how many positions he can gain. He lost a couple by disconnecting when the race was restarted as well, and he's just lost the back end of his car ever so slightly there as he tries to get some heat into these intermediate tyres, and the safety car is out. This could change absolutely everything from some of these strategies that these drivers may have felt they'd nailed, might not actually be the case, as now we get another safety car, and Herman is going to be the pace setter for us. He's already passed the safety car, which means he's now going to need to pit when he gets back round, if he chooses to go on to the intermediates, or he could stay on the hards and hope that he can gain a bit of an advantage from there as well. But he's on his way round at the moment. Interesting the strategy options that he's got. DRS is still not being disabled yet due to the weather, but you can see on the floor the graphics that Formula 1, the game, has to offer us. Shows that a puddle may well be forming soon. So I think intermediates might just be the right way for him to go, but that could prove costly for Sandman and for Danger David, who's only just pitted as well onto these tyres. If you look down the left-hand side, we have still got Herman, RS0121 and RPM Sinful, and Peter Caspi left to pit. We did see earlier Pleasant Snake in 3rd place at the moment did pit, but he pitted onto hard tyres to maybe see him through to the end of the race, not anticipating that the rain was on its way. We saw a bit of a tailspin there from Herman. He managed to keep control of the car and keep it on track at the moment as he slows down these last couple of corners, not risking anything, heads himself assumably into the pits. He has gone into the pits, which means now we will jump on board. I'm assuming RS0121 is going to follow suit going around these next couple of corners as well. Pleasant Snake just behind him will probably do the same. So let's go on board with VSM Sandman. We know how close it was between him and Herman just a few moments ago. Will Herman come out still the leader of this race? Will VSM Sandman gain any positions from his earlier pit stop? It's going to be very close between him and actually a couple of other drivers as they're all going into the pits. Will Evo actually gain 1st position? No, he won't. It's going to stay with Herman. So Herman times that pit stop to perfection. The safety car may actually have helped him in this as well. He stays out in 1st place at the moment. Just behind him is Evo, and he is now caught up with the safety car. We are on lap 11 of 15 of the penultimate race of race 7 of season 12 of the All Assists Off League. Danger David regains position in 3rd. Evo is still 2nd, but the two of those were having a very good battle prior to this safety car. As you can see us just following around, if you are just joining us, this is lap number 12. We are just about to start under safety car guidance. Herman currently out in first place. Peter Caspi choosing that now is the right time for him to go into the pits. It's currently Herman out in first, Evo second, Danger David third, RS0121 in fourth place in the Red Bull, Sandman in fifth place. We've got Toxic in sixth, Pleasant Snake seventh, RPM Sinful eighth, Frankie 1811 ninth, Beraduco 10th, Racing Wheel 11th, Trugster 12th, DDB890 13th, Peter Caspi 14th, Tarkangino 15th, Quincy 16th, and Sir Ibo 17th. We do have Formula 1 Farah and T-Bran as the two retirees as well. So expect the safety car maybe to be going in at the end of this lap. We might still get 3 laps of racing to go prior to the end of this race. As it stands, Mercedes will be the Constructors' Champion. It'll be back-to-back for Danger David and for D. Perez. However, with regards to this, D. Perez, I think, will get to claim the plaudits of winning this Drivers' Championship, or Constructors' Championship, should I say, with his teammates. But we have to take into account that Herman has been present over these last couple of races and has been very important, an integral piece in this actually happening. So, it's not saying that we are under safety car guidance at the moment, but I feel that is exactly what we are under, as I am currently trying to get on board with Herman. We are following it round, and the safety car is in this lap. He's just heading in, which means the pace setter is going to be Herman, and he will be the one that determines when things get back underway onto the pit straight on these intermediate tyres, across the grid at the moment on those intermediate tyres. We're about to go racing one last time. Here in Australia, it's Herman, Ivor, Danger David, RS0121. They're all in close congregation at the moment, and Herman fires up the engine to go around the final couple of corners onto the pit straight. You can see the stream of water falling from the back of his tyres. The puddles are everywhere as we are back underway. Lap number 12 of 15. Herman, your race leader. 8/10 separates him from Ivor as he starts to get a quick getaway from him. We'll jump a bit further down where Sandman needs to make a couple of gambles if he's to get himself back up into second place, where he actually started this race as well. Danger David in third place at the moment for the Mercedes. I'll have to let you know the maths as to whether Danger David is out of contention for the Drivers' Championship. If he is, it means it will be his teammate Herman who takes the championship away from him, but they together will have won the Constructors. 4/10 separates Sandman then from RS0121 as the yellow flag is raised in Sector 1. Nothing too serious is what I'm aware of at the moment, as Veraduco goes backwards into 17th place. We'll stay on board with Sandman, where we are the closest to an overtake potentially happening, being the McLaren on the inside of the Red Bull. He doesn't go up the side of him, he stays just behind him. Goes up the side of him on this occasion though, and tries to get the outside line on RS0121 and gain that position and keeps it. He does so, which means VSM Sandman's now in fourth place. He's only 1.6 seconds behind Danger David though in third place, and a podium finish for himself. That'll be a fantastic finish from him, considering how slow things were after the first restart to this race, when the safety car came out about 3 laps into the race getting back underway. So VSM Sandman in fourth place at the moment. Let's move up one into Evo, who is battling with Danger David. Danger David just takes second place away from him. Second place for Danger David does mean that in 2 weeks' time in Japan, we will continue the battle for the Drivers' Championship, irrespective of who gets the fastest lap, regardless of who took pole position. It will be Danger David and Herman head to head, toe to toe, for the Drivers' Championship next week, if things can stay as they are at the moment. There's still a couple of laps left to go. There is still pressure from Evo and from Sandman that could really turn this championship battle back on its head. There's plenty of more twists and turns on the roller coaster that is the All Assist Soft League. We're on board with Evo at the moment. 9/10 separates him, now just outside to a second. There's no DRS available due to the wet and windy, the rainy, the dreary conditions that we've got in Australia. Very much against the grain and the expectation that we get in Australia, or formerly known for its really warm weather weather, we get the downpour here on the All Assist Soft League. On board with Toxic and 0.9 seconds behind Pleasant Snake in 7th place, looking for where the closest battle we're going to get is, and it looks like it is going to be Frankie. In fact, it's going to be Truckster going up against DDB890, formerly known as Maverick. He's on the Ferrari and he's just ahead of Truckster at the moment. Truckster nearly goes up the inside of him. The tyres of his car was just beside the back tyres of DDB890, but he can't quite get past him. There is a time penalty for the Ferrari, though, that could actually work in Truckster's favour, but he's still behind him, still battling, looks up the inside, chooses to go back onto the outside, but the track is not quite long enough to benefit him, and he's forced to stay behind the Ferrari, at least for now. This is the closest we've got for any battling at the moment, as we are on the final lap of this race. So we will jump on board with Herman. 3.3 seconds in 3 laps separates the Mercedes of Herman from his teammate Danger David. Now, he started the season without a team, despite desperately saying that he wanted to be a part of this league. He's been waiting for people to be absent, but the consistency has been key for Herman. For the last couple of races, he's been alongside Danger David at the Mercedes, and the two have proven a united front in the absence of D. Perez. All in favour of Mercedes taking the Constructors' Championship away from Red Bull. RS0121 and Quincy were given the very difficult task of regaining the championship that they actually didn't win last season. It was Danger David and D. Perez that did. And as he makes his way through the final couple of twists and turns of the Australian Grand Prix, Herman, with the assistance of Danger David, the two have united and worked together in bringing the championship back to the Mercedes. Danger David now 1.5 seconds ahead of Ivor, meaning it is destined for a final battle to take place in Japan 2 weeks from today for the Drivers' Championship. It will be all to play for. It will be Herman against Danger David for the Drivers' Championship, as Herman takes top step of the podium after a well-deserved strategic battle at the end of this race. Danger David, all but 3 seconds behind him, will go second. Ivor falls into third place. Ivor takes second place away from Danger David, which means anything I've just said over the last couple of minutes might not actually make sense depending on how these points really work, because Danger David had a time penalty that meant he just couldn't quite get the distance ahead of Ivor. RS0121 in 4th place, Toxic 5th, Pleasant Snake 6th, Sinful 7th, Racing Wheel 8th, Tarkangino 9th, Sandman with a DNF just before the race had finished. I think he crashed into the wall a little bit too early. He has a formality that when he finishes the race, he crosses that checkered line, he goes straight into a wall. He might have started a little bit too early on his celebrations on this occasion and just missed out on it. Truckster's done the exact same thing. Frankie's gone into the pits. Nobody knows what's going off to finish this race. He's steadily making his way through, which means Veriduco, Suribo in the Haas will make their way up. But it is Mercedes that steal the spotlight as Mercedes win another World Championship. There will be no post-race interviews after the chaos that we were brought by the game deciding that a red flag means the entire race should have just been abandoned for some drivers, but the rest should have been allowed to carry on. So we had to restart things with 15 laps left to go. It did work out in favour for some, not necessarily in others. We'll have to take the points tally into account when deciding whether Danger David or Herman will be finishing off this race this season as the Drivers' Champion. It's going to be an interesting battle. 2 weeks from today, make sure you're rejoining us as we go right down to the wire for the Drivers' Championship here on the All Assist Soft League. Thank you for joining us.